Heard somebody say, is that in your budget? Yes, you know who I'm talking about. Listen, if it brings a positive ROI to my life, I'm going to invest it or buy it. If it doesn't, I won't. It's simple. A budget is not cheap, restrictive, or cumbersome. In fact, it's exact opposite. People that yell this are usually just afraid to look in the mirror and check their spending habits. Being a responsible adult means understanding your money. I spend 30 minutes per month doing this so I can spend more, save more, and give more. It allowed us to pay off our house by 29 and pay off $304,000 of debt in just 5 years. A budget is a spending plan. It's how you create financial freedom. It's simple. Who performs better in anything in life? The person that has a plan or the person that just lets life dictate how things go? For some, budgeting seems tough, and for some, budgeting seems easy. But regardless of which side you're on, most people don't know how to turn budgeting into just 30 minutes per month and also stay effective. The crazy thing is my process will also include accuracy to the penny without having to be good at Excel or math or spend a lot of time doing so. So no worries, I have everything covered for you, but I hope you aren't the one that skips through this video. This is finally your answer to your money, so spend some time going through this video today. I even make this whole finance game so easy that my 11-year-old nephew could understand exactly how to build wealth. Also, before we start, hit that big red subscribe button below to subscribe to my page so you can see more videos like this every single Monday. It's gonna help me continue to put videos out weekly for you, and if you want to grab the spreadsheets that we discussed today, they are in the show notes below to get started. So the title of this video is how you should budget your money. So most people would assume we just need a budget. Wrong. We need two other related financial statements to help us maximize our money: a balance sheet and an amortization schedule or schedules. Let's quickly review the purpose of each of these documents. A budget, income and expenses, like a mortgage payment, car payment, utilities, think cash flow. Balance sheet, the values of all your assets, what you own, and liabilities, what you owe at a point in time. Think mortgage overall balance, car overall balance, and that big student loan debt. The difference between assets and liabilities is your net worth. Amortization schedule or schedules, a visual representation of your debt payoff time period. Simple as that. So every single liability in your balance sheet should have its own related amortization schedule. So when you use these three documents cohesively together, you will see major results with your money. Think of it coming together like this. You will have a snapshot of where you currently sit with your balance sheet. Then using your budget or monthly cash flow, you will decide where that money goes based on the goals that you set to improve that balance sheet. And then you use the amortization schedules to map out your debt payoff for clarity. That is the best thing about this. This is easy, and this process takes no more than 30 minutes per month if you do things right. It may not begin like that, but I can assure you that you'll get there quick with some practice. Some people aren't sure where to begin, so here are a few rule of thumbs that you can use for your budget. The 50-30-20 rule is a great place to start. So 50% of your money goes to necessities like shelter, 30% goes towards wants, and 20% goes towards savings and investing. Number two, your mortgage payment should be no more than 25% of your take-home pay. So if you have a take-home pay of $4,000, your mortgage payment shouldn't be over $1,000 theoretically. This includes principal, interest, insurance, taxes, and PMI if applicable. Let's walk through this process quickly. Before you do anything, the very first step is doing a 3-month look-back analysis. Pull bank statements and credit card statements of the past 3 months. Begin creating budget categories based on your previous 3 months of spend. Average those 3 months, and that's your reality. Also your starting point. And this may be scary, and that's totally normal. At this point, you can actually make some adjustments to get you to a spot that's reasonable and also fast forward those goals that you have. And once you've done this, all you need to do is just begin. All right, let's walk through the 3 documents. All right, so let's start with the balance sheet. So the reason we always start with this is because this gives us a snapshot of our overall financial health, our financial picture, and where we're starting at. The point of the balance sheet is, again, to track your assets, what you own minus what you owe, which are your liabilities. The difference between that is your net worth, and this is at any given point in time. Any public company out there will do this on a quarterly basis. I think it's pretty standard for an individual to do the same. You can do it monthly, but I suggest not to do it that often. Just do a quarterly progress update, see where your net worth was, where it's going to be. So when we're looking at this, I kind of gave you guys an outline into the Jacksons, an example here. And this is as of 6/30/2022. So when you're looking through this, you're going to see their assets listed over here. They have cash. Maybe it's a checking account. Maybe it's in a savings account. Maybe it's in a business bank account. And then they have cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, you name it, whatever. They have a little bit in those as well. And you have maybe an HSA, you have taxable brokerage account, maybe you have some retirement assets, maybe you have child assets. Be careful with child assets, as that might not be part of your net worth. The reason I listed these two accounts here are there's potential that the parent can regain control of both of these, and that's why I have it there. Maybe you have some vehicles in real estate as well. Now, it's important to note within the vehicles and real estate, your assets are the value if that asset was sold today. The associated liability, if you have a mortgage or a car payment, the liability would be underneath that and associated with that, okay? So down here, we have liabilities, maybe credit cards, student loans, medical debt, vehicles, even real estate again. So if I'm looking at their picture, I know, hey, they have 2 paid off cars because they have no liability down here with the vehicles. And up here, they're worth $22,500 collectively. They're good there. And now I'm going to say, okay, well, they do have a $150,000 mortgage on their personal residence. The difference between these 490 minus 150 is their equity in that home, and their overall net worth comes out to be 522. Every single one of these liabilities will have an associated amortization schedule with that details the exact payment, payoff date and everything to the penny, to the month, listed out. And then you have over here the net worth allocation, which is just a sum total of everything over here. But what happens when you're looking at your net worth and your balance sheet is your goal setting. This is where that process begins. We want to set our goals based on this, and we want to use our cash flow from our budget and the accuracy and the clarity from the amortization schedule together to make sure we're hitting these goals. And then we might notice that our cash position is at a place that we don't want it to be, whether it be too low or too high. If it's too low, we know through our budget that we need to start allocating some money to cash in line with our goals. And if it's like, hey, we're too high, we can take some of this cash and move it into one of these assets below, assuming that's your goal. Maybe it's a vacation, it doesn't matter. And so we know exactly to the penny, where everything's at any point in time. We can do percentages. We can go over here and do equal 15,000 divided by our net worth. And we realize cash is at our 2% position or 3% position about. We could do it as a total of the assets and just assets solely, not liabilities. So we could go down here and say that divided by 719. It's even lower at 2%. And we can have our goals behind each one of these accounts and what we're trying to accomplish. Now, once we have all this and we have our liabilities listed out, next is to go to the amortization schedule to make sure that these are mapped out. And then we'll get into the budget after that. All right, so on the amortization schedules, remember, every liability on the balance sheet should have an associated amortization schedule. All this is outlining your debts, right? By the principal, by the interest, maybe escrow if you have a mortgage, to the penny, to the exact date, etc. So all somebody has to do with using this Excel spreadsheet is fill in the yellow detail above, and everything else populates below. So for their mortgage, $150,000, I know that this is going to go all the way down to 360 months, and they're going to be able to pay that off, right? Then we also go to personal loans, which might be a little different. And they have that student loan of $47,000. That's a 5.175% interest rate, $502 minimum monthly payment. And that maps out all the way to the bottom of 120 months, which would be 10 years. So once we have this progress, the beauty of this is we can now figure out how much extra money can we put to achieve our goals. Maybe our goal is to cut this in half. Instead of 10 years, we want to cut this into 5 years. So we know, okay, well, if I cut this 120 months to 60 months, that's my goal. So how can I put extra money per month to make sure it ends right here? And so the question becomes, well, what's that number? This additional fixed monthly principal beginning period 1 is a beautiful tool to use. So let's just say 250. And we go down here, that's pretty close. It's the balance is at $9,000 at this point in time. So therefore, we're going to put a little bit more. I'm going to say 350. I'm probably going to overshoot a little bit. Oh, that's pretty close. Now the balance is at 2,600, and I kind of plug and play this number until it gets to the exact date. We're off 1 month, so for sake of the video, I'm just going to leave it here. But basically what would happen is all of these numbers are crossed out below, meaning there are no more payments. Your last payment's technically month 61 in this situation, and you have to pay the extra 64. But this is the power of knowing exactly how things are lined out. And you know, okay, now I need to find $375 extra on top of my $502 payment per month, whether that's side hustles, maybe that's a 9-to-5 promotion. Now we actually have a goal, and we realize that's exactly going to achieve our goal. If we put more, it's going to speed it up, obviously. And now we can start to align our goals on our balance sheet with our amortization schedule. And next, we need to go to our budget and make sure that the cash flow that we have coming from that is allocated to the goals that we have. So let's go there next. All right, so now we have our budget template. This is super simple. It shouldn't take any more than 30 minutes per month. Remember, our balance sheet is updated quarterly, so we're not really doing that on a month-to-month basis. Our amortization schedules is plug and play, one-time thing, and we just kind of update those as we need, but they don't really take much time from a monthly perspective, right? Now, the budget is what takes you about 30 minutes per month. And I'm gonna walk you through this document in, very quick amount of time. So the first thing we want to understand is a zero-based budget. So we want to understand the formula behind our budget. So our fixed income plus our variable income minus our fixed and variable expenses minus one-time expense and minus savings investments should ideally equal zero. So how do we actually do this? How do we figure this out? So from a budget standpoint, remember we did that 3-month look back analysis. And so let's just say, I'm going to do very high level numbers. Let's do $1,500 for a mortgage. We're gonna put $450 for, that's pretty high for homeowners. Let's just do $50 a month for that. $75 for a phone. I'm just gonna plug and play a few numbers, maybe $600 for groceries, $200 for eating out. And let's just say we have some utilities here of $45, et cetera, $56, $60, and subscriptions equal, let's say 120. And obviously we would use all these categories, but for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna fill in something. As you saw me update, once I updated January, I started here, everything else updated for the entire year. This gives you your base model. So once you start with your 3-month look back analysis, that may or may not be the best start, right? But that's where you begin, and now we can adjust. So once we know those numbers and we go to, let's just say groceries, and we're like, you know what, I'm a single individual, 600's really high. I'm gonna set a fence around this and say, instead of 600, I'm gonna do 400. I'm gonna go to the grocery once a week for 4 weeks in a month, and I'm gonna set it at $100, and I'm gonna use Kroger ClickList or any of the online checkouts, and I'm not gonna go over $100 to make sure it goes into 400. So then I'm gonna say, you know what, that's a little too high. I'm gonna go to 400, and boom, everything else updates for the year. Remember, this is just a base model, and as the months progress, your budget's never going to be identical. But this is like the fixed and variable expense. This is what the biggest piece of this will be. And if you need to adjust every single month, go in there and say, this month I want to do 150 eating out, and it's going to adjust every month going forward. So it just keeps it really simple, and there's not much time involved with the planning process. It's more just thinking through things. Then once you get to that, we're going to list out any variable income that we expect. Maybe we have a bonus of 150 in January. Maybe we have a vacation coming up. Maybe that's $500 as a one-time expense. We might even set a sinking fund if we knew it was coming up ahead of time down here. So maybe the savings and investment goals, we have maybe a Roth IRA, right? So let's say we have $500 in January. Our goal is to max it out. So we do goal amount over there of $6,000. And we know that, January, $500 a month is 8%. And if we did that the entire year, 500 times 12 is 6,000, and we would hit our goal. And we can list all of our goals out here for savings and investments, and all of these based on our goals that we set and what we contribute, it's going to update. Now, once we have that, it's fairly simple going forward, right? We have our budget, everything expected. The only thing we haven't input is our fixed income. So we go to the actuals tab, and let's say our fixed income is $6,000 for that given month. We update that. And then we fill in the actuals. Now we have like 20 lines here. You don't really need that. The key here into how you really make this a 30-minute per month budget is you link your bank to a budgeting app. Maybe Mint, you need a budget, Personal Capital, whatever you want. And what you do is you summarize, and maybe it's a little more work up front to categorize your transactions and eating out and stuff, but eventually Mint or those apps will pick up on where different expenses should go category-wise. And what you do is just take a sum total. You go to the app and you see the total, and you go in here and you say, okay, well, mortgage obviously is a fixed expense of $1,500. I'm just gonna copy and paste these over so I know. Remember, I put these expenses in here one time, and this updates through every single chart for you, so you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's very, very minimal Excel work. So I'm gonna go over here and just copy and paste that as a base over here. But let's just say our groceries, we end up going to $450 instead, and everything else we're on point. We're just gonna do this maybe once or twice a month, maybe mid-month to kind of check in how we're doing through Mint, enter the sum totals, and then also at the end of the month. But we'll have it to the penny because Mint's gonna do that for us. Now we go down here and assess it. And we're gonna say, wow, we're over $50 for the budget. Where's that at? Okay, we know it's due to groceries, obviously, in this situation. And we can assess that from month to month. The goal is obviously to break to zero, but we're human, so it's going to be a plus or minus game a little bit. As long as we can stay within, $100 or so, I think you're doing pretty well. Now we can go to the summary tab and we can say, okay, well, total, that's just expenses, comparing our budgeted expenses to our actual expenses, but we have extra income. We have extra one-time expense and savings and investments. Ideally, again, this formula should equal 0. So your starting cash position on 12/31 or even 1/1/2022 should ideally be whatever you want it to be. Let's just say 3,000. That's what I use. So if I had $3,000 on 1/1 and throughout this month I accumulated a net positive $25.94, my cash position would now be $5,594. My goal is to allocate those dollars somewhere because I don't want over $3,000 in my situation. So what I do is I would say, okay, well, end of the month, how do we allocate this best? I would have my values, my goals lined up in values stacked, right? So maybe that goal is to go on a vacation. Maybe that goal is to invest extra money in your brokerage account. Whatever that is, you should have a goal setting, lined out. And that could include a lot of the goals listed here. And you say, where should I apply that? And there should not be a thought process behind that. You should already have those goals lined up in order, and those dollars should be allocated accordingly. So there is no thought process on your end. So maybe your student loan is part of that goal, right? And so down here, you could say, instead of college savings plan, you might say student loan. And this might not be the minimum payment that shows up on your regular expenses. This might be your extra payment. So maybe an extra, I think we had $375. So what we would do is make sure that this $375 is now taken over to our amortization schedule and it's actually filled in on a monthly basis. And we've hit our goal. It's that simple, guys. So on a monthly basis, really all we need to do is walk into this sheet and say, okay, is February the same as January? If yes, keep the same. If no, walk through each category and update. It's as simple as that. So let's say, groceries are $350 that second month and boom, everything else is already updated. It takes, a matter of 2 seconds. I just entered that in. And then it's a matter of updating your actuals as they come in. All the other tabs are hidden, so you can unhide them by month. My goal is not to make this too cumbersome, so I hide every month I'm not actually working in, and then it's as easy as that. So then we're taking our cash flow from our budget and we're applying to our balance sheet goals using our amortization schedules. The accuracy of this picture is going to fast forward your finances. Do not sleep on the basics, the fundamentals that I'm teaching today. Do the fundamentals, master the fundamentals. This takes no more than 30 minutes, and then see your money go crazy. All right, let's get back to the video. So I hope this process allows you to simplify your financial life. It allowed me to pay off $304,000 in debt in 5 years, quit my 9-to-5, and become a millionaire by 30. It is nothing but empowering. And as a reminder, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you click the subscribe button below. Lastly, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I will absolutely respond to every single comment that this video gets, and I will see you in the next video.